This is the Fitchburg Historical Commission, August 26, 2021. And first on our agenda is just a review of our June 24th meeting minutes. We did not meet in July. I don't know if we've received any ahead of time.
I will have to apologize to you. I started them and I just forgot.
Okay. So there's a motion to postpone the review of those minutes until our next meeting.
Thank you.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, so moved. We'll skip the meeting minutes. Second item on the agenda is 1 Oak Hill Road, building number five, renovation permitting review regarding maintaining National Register status or historic building status. This just as a little preamble as I understand it, and the applicant or the presenters can correct me on this. The applicants are proposing to do internal renovations plus some external renovations to the central section of the mill complex, which is has been previously listed on the National Register. In the permitting process, because it is in the flood zone area, buildings need to go through a process of meeting special flood zone requirements by the building code and other codes that apply to that. And an exception is for historic buildings do not need to meet the standards for flood zone type of permitting. Therefore, as the applicants and the people proposing this renovation, I believe meeting preliminarily with the building inspector, have saying that they can, if the building and the proposed renovations keep this building as a remaining as a historic structure, as it was first declared when it was done, I believe in 1990s, perhaps, that they can go ahead without meeting the flood zone standards. It has come to us, the local historical commission, to do a determination if indeed these renovations will not deter this building from remaining in its National Register status as in kind of our local authority on this at this point. Just as a information, I have contacted the Massachusetts Historical Commission just to let them know that this process, that we are in this review process. At this point, I don't know for sure if there's any state requirement or review requirement. And we'll certainly let the applicants know if there is anything beyond what our local commission determination is. So that's as I understand it. And so if the presenters want to go ahead, and I believe, Ryan, you wanted to maybe introduce yourself and your role in this project, and tell us what you're hoping to do.
Great. Thank you, Keith. Bruce, do you want me to screen share? And I'm not sure where technologically that will end up for you as a
ask you to
in the office.
I'll just ask you to advance slides as we go along.
And Bruce, do you want to sit here so you can look at the camera so everybody can see you when you're presenting, and I'll just switch with you?
Whichever way you want me to do it.
Because I don't think you have a camera on you.
I don't.
So if you want to.
No, this is a camera and it goes around.
Oh.
Like when his voice See how it's moving towards me
Oh, I
now?
see.
Oh, all right.
That's what it does.
Maybe this is-
Okay.
Yeah, that's why they
You
have
learn
it.
something new every day.
Yeah.
All
So you don't
right.
have to move.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Great. Wonderful. So thank you, Keith, and everybody here. I really appreciate the time. As a short preamble to Bruce's presentation on the exact qualifications of window treatments and exterior and interior design that allow us to remain qualified as a historic building, I thought that it was important to take you back a little bit and explain how we got here and the treatment of this historic building for the last approximately 70 years in my family. So I had co-founded Revolutionary Clinics when I moved back from West Africa, where I was working to combat modern slavery in that continent, with the sole desire to create jobs in Fitchburg. So in 2015, I had searched high and low for anyone that could bring industry back to this city using One Oak Hill Road, which was approximately 250,000 square feet plus the campus there. And I looked under every rock. Ultimately, I determined that indoor agriculture as an industry was the way to go. And slowly but surely, I gravitated towards the emerging cannabis industry for a number of reasons, including social justice, job creation, and the pace of development that industry could provide compared to others. And that was a direct correlation to job creation while maintaining the historic nature. I'm proud to report that Revolutionary now is one of the larger cannabis operators in Massachusetts, cultivators and manufacturing. And you'll see some of the statistics down at the end. So this building was built in the 1890s. It's an incredible structure. It has seen many lives. Originally, the Park Hill building, which was what we call now Building 1, although we're looking at Building 4 and 5 in these two buildings, these two photographs, was a cotton mill, creating hundreds of jobs in that industry. It then was purchased by Hedstrom Union to become a metals factory. And soon after, in the early 1950s, after leasing the building for many years, my great-grandfather, Sidney Anson, purchased the building where my grandfather, Ron Anson, had operated. You can see in this photograph, Ron, my uncle Fred, and my Hebrew namesake in the middle, Uncle Ben, and some of their colleagues. Very proud of the history of this building, very proud of the family for maintaining it in such good condition. I grew up in Fitchburg in the North Central Mass area. I went to George's here in the left every day, and have really appreciated the community and appreciate the bones and the opportunity to work within this building, and looking forward to continuing to spread this opportunity into Building 5. In the early 2000s, my uncle Bob Anson, well, in the 90s, as you alluded to, Keith, in the 90s, they had this designated as a historic building, the entire space. And unfortunately, while that was approved, the operating design inside of the building, having nothing to do with the historic nature, but in this case, being a tech incubator and accelerator, that shared demise along with the rest of the tech bubble. So 1/8 of the factory was used as a charter school. I'm really glad that was the case, because it allowed Bob to rid the space of asbestos and mold of any other things that could be problematic to children. And it kept it within reach, kept the building within reach until I was an adult to come in and handle it. As it relates to other historic buildings in the area, you can see in the right side photograph, there are other buildings that I toured, partially because of my own diligence, and then otherwise because I'm now very involved in the space in the cannabis industry, and folks are always looking for these types of buildings. Many spaces, if you look at this on the right compared to ours on the right here, they've gone through too much destruction and too much time for people to revitalize them economically. We always look at what is the cost to bring something back up to standard and then to build it out. And it's great to maintain a historic building, but it's also really important to make it viable so long as we're adhering to the standards. So I had toured all of these mills and spent a lot of time understanding why Building 5, in this case, is so important to Fitchburg, to job creation, and to our company. Across the decades, we've, as a family, worked really hard to create jobs in the area using these historic assets. And we're pulling out this, we have pulled out the same playbook with expert management teams that work with the best of brands and the best of products with integrity there inside of the building. And you're seeing, these are thousands of brands, seals for the footwear that we used to work with, and some of the machinery as well. This truly is, although it's grown in size and scale compared to my first vision, this really is something that our family is very excited about and honored to have participated in, and the family remains actively involved. Ultimately, we really appreciate the opportunity to be in the community and to leverage these historic buildings, and we wouldn't want to see anything start to crumble by lack of use in Fitchburg at large, as in the photo that I showed you before, but especially here where this is what we're responsible for. And it would be a shame from my lens not to leverage it on behalf of the community and all of the HCA and tax revenue and everything else that comes to Fitchburg. So in a snapshot, and Bruce will go much deeper into what the plans are as he's the real expert, but in a snapshot, we've paid out over $800,000 through the HCA and taxes to the city of Fitchburg. We currently employ 70 Fitchburg residents, which is exciting to me. What's more exciting is that there's 241 jobs active at 1 Oak Hill Road. That can continue to grow significantly, probably by 20% inside of Building 4, but probably by 60 or so percent beyond that in Building 5. And it's those active jobs that create lots of economic activity through lunches and other entertainment and other time spent in the area. So moving forward into Building 5, we intend to fully maintain the historic preservation aspect of that space, interior, exterior. We intend to expand our product manufacturing. We intend to continue to grow our tax base for the community and bringing more energy into Fitchburg through innovation, which was the entire goal of my moving back from West Africa. So I'm going to turn it over to Bruce. I'm happy to stay on for any questions and honored to be here. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ryan. So I'm Bruce Hampton. I'm an architect, a principal of Place Taylor Elton Hampton Architects. We are located in Boston. We have done a number of cannabis jobs around the country, and we also have been involved in a lot of historic restorations. So this was a perfect opportunity. So what is this project that we're talking about? On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see a diagram of the site. Building 5 is highlighted in the slight orange color. Building 4 is parallel on the left side to Oak Hill Road. Building 5 runs along the Nashua River. Building 1, as Ryan referred to earlier on, is on the right side of the diagram, and that's the senior housing project. We are talking about taking Building 5 in the upper picture emptied out. In the lower picture, a fit out of what we do to the interior to create the grow facilities. As you can see, the structures are still there and all the structures maintained. And we take care to avoid the columns when possible and incorporate the spaces to the best of our ability. So Building 5 is approximately 100,000 square feet. Building 4, which was already fit out several years ago, was about 125,000 square feet. So it's slightly smaller. Basically on the first floor will be storage, vault, loading areas, and some processing. We'll walk through the floor plans in a moment. Floors 2 and 3 are where new grow facilities are going to be installed. And floor 4, where it's light and airy on the uppermost floor, will be where we do more packaging and processing. So that's where the people will generally be, is on the 4th floor. So next, Ryan. So where are we in the process for building 5? We are in a fairly early stage. We are just past schematic design. We're just entering design development. So this is the perfect time to be talking to you and to be talking to the building department and the fire department in particular, to make sure everybody's on board. So we also have a contractor on board who's working with us on a daily basis to flesh out possibilities. So the existing first floor was basically just storage in building 5. It has a few remnants of some of the geothermal that is no longer working for building 4. It has some of the mechanical spaces on the left-hand side of the diagram. Next, Ryan. So we will fit out the rest of floor 1 with more facilities. The extraction and processing lab will be on the first floor as a result of talking to the fire department. That's where they would like to see it. The rest of this is mostly mechanical spaces and storage rooms. Next, Ryan. The second and third floors are virtually identical. I inserted a picture of an empty floor because that's very much what it looks like today. And the floor plan is basically elevators, stairs, and columns. Next, Ryan. So floors 2 and 3 are proposed to be grow facilities. That's where you see the colors. Those are the benches installed inside the grow rooms. So you can see that most of the floor is dedicated to growing. Some of the auxiliary spaces are either corridors or mechanical spaces. Next. And the 4th floor, as I said earlier, is quite nice. It was used for some offices, but it's basically storage and empty. Next. And so the 4th floor gives us an opportunity to get to the windows, so to speak. In other words, we put the corridors on the outside, the processing rooms on the inside, so we can maintain the historic windows, and it doesn't affect the grow facility on the 2nd and 3rd floor. So most of the 4th floor is people-oriented. It's got people processing jobs. And we can come back to any of these if we want to. Go ahead, Ryan. Next. So what got us here in front of the Historic Commission? Well, as you know, the property was deemed historical back in 2008 by the Mass Historical Commission. And the housing portion, I do believe, applied for some tax credits based on the historic tax credits. That's not true, to my knowledge, for Building 4 or Building 5. We're not seeking tax credits for this work. But what was interesting is that an early conversation with our civil engineer and the planning board, the building commissioner, Mark Barbadoro, popped his head into the room and said, "What about the flood elevation? What are you doing?" And so that started a conversation about what should we be doing for the flood elevation. We did our research and found that the building code refers to ASCE 2414, which is a civil engineer's flood resistant design manual. And basically, when you read through it, and Keith represented it quite nicely in his opening remarks, that if a building starts out as a historic building, is substantially renovated, and ends up still as a deemed historic significance, then it does not need to abide by ASCE 2414. That's been confirmed by Massachusetts Emergency Management. Next slide.
So if it didn't have to abide by it, what would have to be done?
Well, you'd have to stay above the 100-year floodplain, which is, if you're familiar with where we are up against the Nashua River, we are, 10 feet above the normal, but in a flood situation, the Army Corps of Engineers has installed a retaining wall against the river, and it's about 5 feet high relative to our first floor elevation. FEMA flood elevations say that in that area, and it's no surprise because we're in a mill building against the river, but the flood elevation is about 10 feet above some portions of that floor. The owners of the building know the risks. We've talked about this at length. We will do what we can to mitigate any possible damage and any kind of disruption. But if you were to abide 100% by the 100-year floodplain, as you can imagine, the first floor would basically not be usable. You couldn't put electrical, you couldn't put mechanical, you couldn't put anything in that space. And that virtually makes a quarter of the building unusable to the client. So that's why our interest in maintaining as we have with Building 4 and doing the maintenance and staying on top of the situation. I'll talk some more about that as we go along, but that's really important, is just stay ahead of it.
I'd also like to point out, just from a usability, feasibility, and safety sake, the 100-year floodplain has not been updated since dams and everything else were changed in that affected the Nashua River when that used to flow, according to much older family members than I who remembered the river flowing with different colors almost every day. And that occurred surrounding the time of World War II, and Fitchburg never got around, and whoever was managing this in the 40s and 50s never got around to doing the work to change the 100-year floodplain, even though the dams were changed. So we have great confidence in the safety and security of that space, and which is why we've moved forward in this direction.
Thank you, Ryan. So in 2008, this project went through review at the State Historical Commission level, and it was deemed qualified for the National Register. So I started this process putting my package together for the building inspector, for the building commissioner, Mark Barbadaro, and he sent the package up to Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, Eric Carlson, who replied back that he thought his interpretation was, in fact, that this is an existing historic building qualifying to meet those requirements, but that the building commissioner is not the authority having jurisdiction. That, in fact, it probably is the historical commission. So that's what brings us to you. And so our questions to you are two. One, can we work together to make sure we keep this building historic? And if so, can we get a letter out of you to the building commissioner stating that we can go forward the way we plan to go forward? That's the simple ask, actually. Next, Ryan. So the decision chart is here. I can read it, it's a little small, but in the upper right, it says, is the work a repair of a substantially damaged existing structure or work classified as a substantial improvement of an existing structure? I would suggest the answer to that is yes. Following the check, is the structure designated as a historic structure? I think the answer to that is also yes. Now we are consulting the authority having jurisdiction over historic structures, and I believe that is you. And the question is, does it retain its historic designation? And I suggest the answer is yes, and that this standard for flood-resistant design and construction does not apply. And that's the decision-making tree. Next, Brian. There we go. So in talking with Keith, your chairperson, he was very helpful in leading me to a few resources that I hadn't seen. We also, as I've stated before, we've done historic masonry renovation, window renovation. So we had specification, which I tailored to this particular job, but it was very informative to go back and look at the Park Service preservation briefs to confirm our understanding of what needed to happen and how to put it into contract documents. So we passed around, and you've got a package that has our specifications. As I suggested earlier on, we're still pretty early in the process, so we have an opportunity to work with the contractors and make things work properly. Next. One of the contractors we're talking to is Northeast Masonry out of Bow, New Hampshire. We also suggested Abbott Construction. They're very good historic masons because we have a lot of work ahead of us here. This picture in the lower right is facing building 1. As you can see, those are the residential units with kind of residential 12 over 12 windows. But the first floor piece of that is going to be part of our extraction lab. And you can see, I don't know if you can zoom in a little bit further, Ryan, on the bottom there. But it's beat up. You know, it's in need of some tender loving care. So we definitely intend to do work on the masonry. There's some of the parapets are not very solid, as would be expected. So there's work ahead of us to do. That we intend to do, because as Ryan stated earlier, we want this building to be around for another 100 years. Next, Ryan. Yep, the historic window, wood window restoration is a concern that Keith alerted me to, and I absolutely share his concern to make sure that what we do doesn't harm the existing fabric, and that we don't cause ourselves trouble with the structure. We still have more identification to do in defining the scope of work, but we share the concern about condensation possibly affecting the windows, specifically because cannabis in the grow areas, they don't want to have the natural light. So we actually have built a pod that is the grow facility inside, leaving the windows to fend for themselves, so to speak. So we're cutting off the windows from the interior grow. And this is a fairly technical aspect of cannabis grow, but they like having 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And to make economic use of that, you have one room on when one room is off, so that you're not using all the energy at the same time. So that's why the windows don't work very well in a grow facility. Next, Ryan. So we take this condensation concern because we insulate the interior of the window, because we don't want the window. These are old historic sash and they don't perform all that well. We insulate the inside of them with insulation board and dense glass instead of drywall. We don't want to use drywall because of potential mold and mildew. So the concern is such that we want to make sure we scientifically know what we're doing with these windows. So we don't affect the windows and we also don't create a condensation problem. So we did what's called a therm analysis. On the left is our section, our architectural section. In the middle and right are the therm results of what the temperature gradients are across the window plane. And with the object of finding out where the dew point occurs, which is what you don't want to have happen on the backside of your windows. One more slide, Ryan. The first slide was the summertime. I'm not concerned about the summertime because any moisture that possibly could show up in the cavity behind the glass will ventilate directly out. It'll cook its way out. The winter is the one in New England we worry about, because anytime you allow moisture to come up against a cold glass surface, you'll have condensation. So we discovered where the dew point would occur.
Or Jack Frost.
I'm sorry, Jack Frost, yeah, exactly. So we discovered where the dew point is. It happens to be 7 degrees Celsius, if for anybody wants to know. But the important thing is, where is that in the construction of the wall? Actually, Ryan, would you hop to the next, because I think okay, these are the existing windows from the inside. We can come back when we want to revisit it. You can see we've got some nice depth to the window sills. Next, Ryan. So I sketched up our proposal. And I have to apologize. Outside is to the left, inside is to the right on this diagram. And what we want to make sure of, thank you, Ryan, is that the dew point doesn't occur on the glass. So the moisture would be coming from the, I'm going to get up and point. The moisture, if it's anywhere, will be here. Environmental moisture, rain, et cetera, would be outside. The object here is to make sure that we have the right amount of insulation, and that's that yellow portion, a straight line down onto the sill of the window, to make sure the insulation is thick enough to prevent the dew point from occurring in the cavity, which is where the glass is. You see, I colored it blue to suggest the airspace between the insulation and the window. And what will happen here is that the colder that space is maintained, it will drive the dew point further and further into the insulation where it won't condense. So basically what happens in the scenario that we're talking about is that any drying that occurs from moisture inside the building will dry back to the inside of the building. In other words, the air conditioning will take care of that moisture. To add to it is that we suspect that the windows as they sit today are not all that airtight. We are taking a belt and suspenders approach towards this problem, where we think that we want to add some ventilation holes to the wood window. You can see my upper diagram in the upper right. I'm suggesting 2 holes on each side of these large windows and 2 weep holes at the bottom to ensure that it stays cool in that space. And if condensation were to occur, either because rain got in from the outside or moisture somehow got in from the inside, we have a way to ventilate it back to the outside. It gets dried out. And there's, in fact, I put an angle clip, an aluminum angle clip at the sill of the window at the weep hole, so that if condensation were to occur, it would drip down into the gutter and out the weep holes. Now, the weep holes are simply a drilled hole with a screen at the outside edge of it, so that we could maintain it from the outside if we needed. And should this window want to go back to its original use and we undo this whole cannabis grow and it becomes another use, you could always patch those over fairly simply and easily. So, by the way, as we were doing this study and this analysis of the windows, we were also reading the preservation briefs, and lo and behold, moisture becomes trapped between layers of glazing, can condense on the colder outer prime window, potentially leading to deterioration. The correct approach is to using interior storms, is to create a seal on the interior storm while allowing some ventilation around the prime window, which is exactly what we're proposing. It happens not to be a storm window, it happens to be insulation. But the idea is there, and I was glad to see that the Park Service was saying the same thing we were saying. That's, next slide, I think that was, next question, are there other concerns that we want to talk
I
about
was just
here?
thinking, we've been dealing with a historic factory
Mm-hmm.
in Fitchburg that has no windows.
Aha,
It's a windowless factory. I was thinking
perfect.
that would be, but I think Amazon was bought it. So
No, they didn't buy it. Somebody
didn't
else
buy
did,
it.
and they're renting from
Okay.
the GFI Properties. That's the company that,
So it might still be available.
no,
No, it's not
no,
available.
GFI Properties bought the property,
Okay,
and they're renting it out to Amazon.
I see. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Ryan or Bruce?
Well, it's fascinating to me. I think it's great, that you're taking a historic building, repurposing it, trying to be respectful of the historic characteristics of the building, preserving it. The idea of bringing in new industry that is flourishing elsewhere that's really I think a way to go in terms of economic revival of Fitchburg. Other cities and towns in a similar situation, when they start to go over to microbreweries and hydroponic facilities, then they've kind of made it. So this seems to be a step in that direction. And I really appreciate that you're being very careful about the historic aspects.
Right.
Because one of the things that we as a commission have said over and over again, and it's in the master plans for the city, the way for economic revival of Fitchburg is through its historic resources. Every one of the master plans does that. So this seems to fit in with what has been prescribed.
It's a wonderful history.
Yeah.
Being down at the Nashua River there is just it's a wonderful piece of all of our history.
Well, if I could add just one more thing. Ryan, it's very nice to meet you. I'm an old friend of your grandfather's, and I tell my associates that Ryan is continuing as his grandfather started, being very committed to the city of Fitchburg. And it's very exciting to have listened to this presentation, and I personally have learned a lot. But I just want Ryan to know that he's continuing a legacy that was established by his grandfather.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
what was-
I feel it every time I walk in those doors, and I'll share. This is not an easy industry, and it is far from a linear industry where 1 + 1 = 2, and you can go on your merry way. And so when people ask me how it's all going, I always say it depends on the yardstick. But when I drive to Lower Cleghorn and I can't get a parking spot in my own building, that's pretty exciting. It makes me so happy under those circumstances. So I'll pass along your best to Ron. I'm honored to be part of his legacy.
Thank you.
Hi, Ryan. My name is Megan Donahue. I was wondering if possible, since you're in the preliminary stages, if anyone is open to it, taking a tour of the property.
Of course.
Thank you. Just seems,
It's a thrill.
That
It's
would-
great.
I love Mills. So I'd like to go see
It is thrilling, yeah.
Yeah, and so some of our investors who are involved in everything that we've done to date, which has occurred largely in Building 4, they say it's like touring the inside of a Ferrari engine that happens to look like a Model T. And so to be able to see into the future in a way by seeing what our 250 person strong team is doing 24 hours a day right now, and either just before or just after go into Building 5, obviously just attached. It's unique. It's quite an experience. So happy to lead a tour.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Well, I'd like, thank you, Ryan and Bruce, for your presentation. I think, as you suggest, this is kind of a work in process. And in kind of what our role as the Historical Commission and kind of reviewing the maintenance of the integrity of the historic fabric of this building. And it appears that you're certainly on the right track on this. I just from looking at the proposed plans that you've shared with us, I would guess a large percentage, maybe 80 or 85% of the windows in building number 5 will have this insulated panel that you're designing behind this. So it's going to be affecting kind of what kind of the life of the building. So I think it's really important that we get this condensation design done correctly, because there's lots and lots of a large percentage of the exterior of this particular building 5 is going to be depending on it, I guess, to kind of maintain the window structure it is, which is a little bit different than it is on building number 4 and the like the double hungs in the housing in building number 1. So I think it is kind of a challenge. It's an unusual window construction, et cetera. And I guess I would like to see kind of more details, or I'm suggesting to my commission members that we try to get some more detail and maybe backup information on how this adding the ventilation and the weep holes and things is actually going to be happening. To be able to have the weep holes, it sounds like you're going to be drilling holes through the existing, let's call it historic wood sash of the buildings. Running water through wood that you bore holes through it, and particularly antique wood, is not a good idea in a lot of aspects. Screens, vents, wasps kind of build up, insects kind of fill up these holes, et cetera. And it could end up without any of us knowing it, because of their height and kind of hidden behind the panels, that a lot of deterioration could happen in this bottom portion of the window, if that's where the condensation is being guttered, if you will, guttered up against the existing wood, which is, certainly not highly sealed, or certainly not preservative treated, particularly these sash are in place, they're kind of butted up against the existing wood sills. And exactly how we run that water out through the subsill, which is probably wood also, and getting it out without it soaking into the wood and slowly deteriorating moisture and rot. That's what all the little organisms that like to eat wood, because wood is food, just like your cannabis plants. And so that's, because we're changing it, it's just not wide open structure where there was lots of ventilation behind it. So I as one member anyhow, I would like to see some additional detail on, and maybe some examples of other facilities that have this isn't the first time this is being done on a historic building, and exactly what those details are, so we, to the best of our ability, can assure the historic fabric of these windows. We're not actually creating a problem to enhance the deterioration process in these windows. I think we're on the right track. I think it's the devil's in the details of how this is really done. Water flows downhill, it's going to gather at the bottom, and it's going to gather on wood, and it needs to pass through wood to get to the other side, it seems at this point. And I believe in the windows that won't have the covering, particularly most of the windows on the 4th floor, I believe it is. Will you be adding storms to these for your energy conservation, so you have some insulating, or is there any treatment going to be happening on the windows that do not have the insulating panel?
Those are going to be brought up to functioning levels. So in other words, they're going to be sealed and painted, interior and exterior. Some of them have storms now. Some of them don't. It's a real mix. We're going to be proposing that we scope all of it out and make some decisions based on what we're finding. For the most part, the windows are facing onto spaces that are transitory. They're in corridors, which we don't mind having a little bit warmer in the summer and a little bit cooler in the winter. The interior spaces that are the workspaces are self-contained rooms. So we'd rather not mess up the windows on the 4th floor. For the most part, they're in good shape, and we love having them. And I think people will really benefit from them.
Now, is there any energy code requirements that you need to treat those or not?
No, there's not, because it's a historic building.
Okay.
I think it's our building.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Any
I just wanted to complete the thought, which is, Keith, we are completely committed to working this through with you to make sure that we do this right on the windows. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So you haven't seen the last of me.
Okay, I guess I'm suggesting to the commission that we can perhaps, our options would be to kind of continue our review until you have kind of full details that we could provide this endorsement, I guess, that you're seeking. This is kind of new for us also. We haven't had to do one of these in a flood zone type of situation. It just hasn't been either been aware of it by other buildings or in the community. So we are maybe playing this by ear at the moment, but our responsibility to our community is to, as you're doing this, and I realizing you're fully committed to do this, is that we have a kind of a checks and balance type of thing, or a way of understanding kind of the final design and then approving that, and some sort of mechanism that we could work through the building commissioner's office, that the kind of follow through from your the architect's weekly reports and verification of the design and installation and things like that, that we have, it is indeed being performed in that manner, or in the agreed upon solution to do this. So I think I don't think we're inventing the wheel here. I suspect it's been done successfully with, certainly a lot of older buildings all over, certainly New England and the country, that have very similar types of issues with this. A lot of those might have been metal windows, but some slightly newer built. If it was built, I think this was built around 1915, this section.
Right.
And a little bit later, they probably would have been all metal windows. And maybe we would be concerned about rust or something in the frames on those. So as at least one of the commission members, that's kind of how I'm suggesting, and maybe working up a process that we can kind of finalize our approval. I think personally, I think we're all on the same path. We're all in the same agreement what the issues are and what the problems are that need to be solved. And with that approach, I personally feel that, and we can discuss this with the rest of the commission members, that we're on the right path. And when do you think you will actually be going for your final permit on your final design on this?
It's going to be a few months before that actually happens. That's not to say that we wouldn't finalize the window details before. I think for the entire building, it's a complicated building, as you can imagine.
Sure, and this is just one of the small issues that you're dealing with. So.
One small issue, right. So, and this also happens to be one of the issues that we, as a design team working with the contractor, are talking about splitting this task out and getting it done earlier. Because if you think about all the work that happens inside of the building, the windows need to be done first before you can start building the rest of the thing. So I would anticipate, and I'll be talking to Ryan and the rest of the design team, I would anticipate going forward fairly quickly on the window design. Because we want
yeah, and if it's something that you design and maybe a couple mock-ups, if there's a couple different situations of sills or windows or types of windows or something like that, actually seeing what the condition is on the inside, or well documented through photography, or actually looking at a mock-up or something like that, just to verify, not to make this too difficult, but it seems to me as kind of the issue that we could cause a lot of quick rot here if we're not careful, or we can design a pretty fault tolerant type of way of getting around this.
Design coming. I think
Right.
we'll be there. It's interesting that Building 4 has performed nicely. I suspect it's because those windows are not particularly tight, and I think they ventilate nicely by themselves. But I couldn't hang my hat on it and be assured. So that's why I'm suggesting we pursue breather tubes or ventilation holes, something, there's more research to be done to put a fine tooth on this.
Okay, and on the masonry, repairs, I didn't read through your specifications, the one that you had shared with the
Okay.
commission anyhow on the masonry repairs in much detail. But some experience that I've had is that the type of mortar that your contractors use really needs to match the existing mortar type that's there. If you use too strong of a mortar mix, or not enough lime in it and too much Portland cement or whatever in it, that these old walls breathe and expand and contract differently than modern masonry and modern mortar types of joints do, which are much more rigid and much more almost epoxied in, if you will, compared to the old mortar joints. And by putting in high strength mortar or even medium strength, depending on what the existing mortar is, and this 1950s building, that it really needs to match the quality and properties of that older mortar. If we put in repoint with too strong a mortar, you'll end up with a patch of that particular masonry that will not move while the rest of the building is trying, and that piece will actually fall out of the wall that we've seen. So it is an art and a bit of your selection of your masons doing it and the qualifications of their actual installers or the people that are laying and repointing or making repairs where you're putting in new openings and things. It is very important. And that maybe you as your architect can make sure that they've specified this in their specifications, and that there is due diligence on the contractor's point of view and inspections from your design team on how these things are being done. Not to make it overcomplicated, but it is before us, and these are some of the things we're looking to maintain the integrity. We could do things for.
Might I make a proposal, Keith, that I write up a letter to Mark Barbadoro just explaining where we are so that he's comfortable engaging in conversations about moving forward with the conditions that we're basically, going to continue to meet with you on these details until everybody's happy that we're doing the right thing. I just don't want to have the design process shut down because we haven't quite completed this task.
Yep, I think that's fair, and if we can discuss this in a little bit more detail, but the commission can verify that correspondence to the building commissioner, from
Sure.
our end also, so he has it from us, not.
I would share that with you before I sent it to him.
Yep. And we could, have this tentative endorsement and saying that these particular problem areas we're trying to still solve. So Ryan, you and your co-owners or investors are not throwing design money to the wind and not getting your building and all the process and things you're doing. But we can give that intention and with the goals that we're trying to look for, and so you can with at least that understanding, this is what we're focused on. These I believe these two areas, and this is just my comments from if the other commission members have any other concerns, there certainly could be others, but the intent is that we'll do the best we can to maintain the historic status, and really it will keep the integrity of your property, like you say, for the next 100 years or more. and the value of the property. So we're not doing things incorrectly that you have to redo at some point, 10 years, 20 years from now. So, and perhaps lose the historic status or something if things go bad and you have to replace. Or, other costs and, than trying to do it meeting the requirements to begin with. So.
Very good. I think that makes sense.
Other commission members, any thoughts on this?
I think it's essential that we do tour the facility. That will give us a better idea.
Absolutely, what the scale of it is and the scope.
And also what Keith mentioned about working with the building commissioner. It's not an either or process, it's all together.
Right.
In cooperating.
How quickly would you like to schedule that?
Well, Keith, when are you back from Block Island?
I'm actually back right now. I can do small meetings. I'm trying to avoid larger gatherings just because of some of my own health types of things. So I appreciate your doing this. But what is it we are either a written document or what was that you were proposing?
No, this was for a tour of
Oh.
Building 5, which
Okay.
I'm planning to be there on Tuesday morning and
Okay.
could host at 8 a.m. on Tuesday. People would like.
Others of the commission members that would like to do that?
Yes.
I can be there, yeah.
Tuesday morning?
At 8 o'clock, is that?
Yep.
Or would you like to settle in a little bit at the office and then have us come at 8:15 or 8:30 or?
I'm never settled. 8
Okay.
a.m. is fine.
Can I bring my dog? I go walking the dog, we walk very close to the facility there. About that time.
That may be difficult, certainly for the active portion of the building. If this is simply for Building 5, then no problem.
Perhaps I probably won't be there, but for those of you with the tour, I suggest that maybe you look at maybe building number 4 as to see what is left on the inside of the historic structure of building number 4. Just so you have a quick look at what that is. You don't have to see the whole piece, and then see the taking a look at the insides and outsides of the building. I have looked several times at the exterior and kind of walked up to the building, at least on the south side. So I have a pretty good idea of what the windows are like. I haven't seen the north side, but I believe it's very similar types of construction there.
Yeah, building 4 and building 5 are fairly similar.
Megan, do you have Ryan's contact information?
This is being recorded, right? So his email was on the,
Okay.
I think I wrote it down though.
Bruce can give it to you as well.
Oh, thank you.
Because I don't think I'll be able to make it because of work, but if you guys wanted to make sure that you were in touch, just.
Okay, so this is Don and Megan
Alan.
and Ellen.
Mhm.
Okay,
We should contact Sam.
and where would they meet you, Ryan or Bruce?
Right in there's a black gate that approaches building 4, and we'll walk past that black gate, blue door. So just on the outside of the black gate.
Hold on.
This is on which side of building 4?
This is within the horseshoe.
Okay,
You know where you're going, right, Ellen?
Yes, I do.
Ellen knows her way. This isn't Ellen's first time there.
No, I didn't.
okay, great. Well, thank you for providing the tour then.
You had a 50-50.
Okay,
All right. So I think if I do not hear any dissent from the existing members, we will, or members of the commission, we will kind of move forward on this progress piece of it. And we will looking to review and draft, I guess, somewhat jointly from the owner, architect, and the commission, our current status of the historic status as far as the historical commission is concerned. Does that sound
Sounds fine.
Yep.
okay? So we have consensus on that. So any other questions?
No.
Okay, well, thank you, Ryan and Bruce, for presenting this and taking the time.
Thank you.
If possible, Bruce, could you send us a digital copy of your presentation and I'll distribute it to the members?
Hopefully with a little more success than I had presenting it. I'm glad I had a backup with Ryan.
It worked out perfectly.
Okay, well, one of you can send this on to me, so, and we'll just have record of your visuals that you presented at this particular meeting, so.
Yeah, we're excited for your project.
Good. It's great. It's fun being out here.
Okay, you picked one of the hottest days in August to do it too, so hopefully the air conditioning is working in City Hall.
Nice to meet everybody. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Ryan.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on our agenda, number 3, endorsement of Fitchburg trustees of public burial grounds proposal to nominate several Fitchburg cemeteries as local historic places. And who would like to present?
I'm Judy Perla.
Thank you
I'm
very
the
much.
chair of the trustees of the public burial grounds. You also have Jacqueline Poirier on the telephone. She's the superintendent of Fitchburg Cemetery Department under the direction of the DPW department. And also, I believe Michelle Shibarasi, she is on, but you can't see her. She can hear us. She said
She told you that?
yes, she just emailed me because I said, I can't see you. She said, I can
And
hear
Jacqueline's
you.
on the phone?
She's also, Jacqueline is on the phone, I believe.
Can we hear you, Jacqueline?
Jacqueline?
She's muted.
Yeah, that's,
Ask to unmute.
Jacqueline is, yeah, I see you have the same screen up there.
Jacqueline, you have to unmute. I don't know. Oh, wait. Okay. Can,
Yeah, there you go. Jacqueline, are you there? Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna, and I don't know if Michelle, can you hear us, Michelle?
I don't see Michelle
You
here.
don't see Michelle.
Keith, do you have a way to make sure that we're accepting people that are waiting to be?
She did just sign in. She said, okay, she registered and everything. No idea why you can only, I can only, meaning she can only observe and listen. Because I just said, I don't
Oh,
see you.
she's not a panelist, that is why, so she has to ask to be a panelist.
Is there something that you can do over here on my
They
end? to
told
help
us just to
me? You
register.
seem like you know your way around the Zoom better than I do.
Every day.
I've used it maybe 5 times.
Um,
And
You mean
Michelle is
Jacqueline?
actually the woman who,
Okay, Jacqueline there. And I clicked her name before and I asked her to unmute and it unmuted, but we still can't hear
I don't know how to use Max.
her. I can put my mouse up. If you want. Just 1 second.
Mhm.
Yes. the mouse connects, it's a little easier to navigate. Use right click if you need to on something,
Right click,
if you need to drop
Apple
down.
does everything differently.
I know, I think backwards.
Okay, so,
Or left click, and then if you need to drop down, you can do a right click, but try the left click.
so she's hosting, so she should be able to speak.
Not there.
Jacqueline, can you hear us?
What are you guys texting or something?
Hi, she emailed me. Jacqueline, I know, she doesn't have video in her office on her computer, so that's why she can only come through on the phone line.
She doesn't have.
She has an older computer, not a laptop.
But you know she's on the phone right now?
Well, I can call, I can make a phone call if you'd like.
Could we do a
She's,
speakerphone thing?
Actually, she's probably gone home,
Oh, maybe that's what it is. She probably got bored.
but let me,
it?
well, no, I mean,
She's on.
I don't know her work day, she's probably asked.
I mean, she's holding for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Thanks for trying. It's better than if I did, looked.
Maybe if we do speakerphone for her, if she,
I don't know how to do that.
oh, you just press speaker on your, is that an iPhone?
I'm calling Jacqueline at the cemetery department, but she's not in, yes. I can hear you, but they can't seem to get your audio. Are you? Oh, okay, she keeps answering her. Okay, well, you know what, I'll just leave you on my phone on speaker. Is that okay? All right, and we can't hear or see Michelle. She said she's on, but she can hear us, but she can't see us, so I don't know what's going on there, but
Michelle's not on. There's only
she
four.
said she was. Okay,
There's only
well,
4 people.
All right, I'm gonna hold, if I hang you up, I'll call you right back.
Or click on attendees, Cheryl.
Let me see, okay.
Oh, it could be, yeah, she is on, I'm sorry.
Michelle is there?
Allowed to
Yeah.
talk. All right.
Shigarasi, okay.
What's
you
her
got
first
it?
name again?
Her first name is Michelle.
Michelle, can you hear us?
She's on mute.
Oh, she's on mute.
There you
Can you unmute?
Sorry, guys.
She should be able to talk, she unmuted herself.
And then there's also someone else.
Oh, is that her on the bottom right there? She just came up on the right. No. No, Jacqueline, you're okay. Michelle is on her computer and we see her, but we can't hear her.
And then this one here, who's this?
This is Michelle.
Okay.
So they're
Can you
both-
hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, there you are, Michelle. Okay, we got you.
Okay. Yeah, I did press unmute just a second ago when I got that screen.
Okay, and Jacqueline, you're still there? What happened to Jacqueline? Jacqueline?
Did she hang up on her?
Sakes.
Maybe you hit something on your phone.
No, it's still, she's still on.
She must be working or something. Gotta love technology.
Yeah,
Anyway,
well,
Hi, who's this?
This is Jacqueline.
Oh, good, we got her on.
You got her on?
Yeah, you're working, all right.
can I hang her up then?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, are you sure she won't? Okay, all right.
Don't go by me, I don't know.
Okay, I don't really know. All right, so anyway,
I take that.
our presentation is, we had come before this body back in, oh God, now I have to look at my notes. I believe it was back in November 21 of 2019.
At the library.
At the library. We came before you to ask for your help as the Historical Commission to help us get our historic cemeteries placed on the state register. And the Laurel Hill Cemetery and the Forest Hill Cemetery are the two that we're looking to get on the register, and we have the forms completed for them. The other 4 cemeteries that we have listed, we don't have all of the forms completed. When Turk and Tracy and Larry Architects of Portland, Maine did the survey inventory for Fitchburg, for the city of Fitchburg back in 2000. They did those forms, but they didn't complete Form E. But we don't need that Form E just to get them listed and denoted from the Historical Commission as historic places. What we need from you is a letter approving, and Michelle, correct me, Jacqueline, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to misspeak. Just approving these 6, I believe, cemeteries as historic places. If you can provide us with a letter stating that you're in agreement with the historic sites, then we can present it to the city council, and hopefully there's 2/3 vote will place them as historic. They have to designate them as historic places in order for us to move forward, either with funding and or preservation work and or repair work, which is what we're trying to do right now. So that's pretty much why we're all here this morning. But if you have any questions, be happy to answer them. If I can't answer them, Michelle and obviously Jacqueline can answer them for you.
Can I just ask for some clarification? There's 6 cemeteries.
Yes, we
There's
have.
2 that are incomplete, or there's?
No. The 6 cemeteries altogether are the South Street Cemetery, which is the first burial ground in Fitchburg. That's the oldest. West Street Cemetery, Hartwell Cemetery, and then Laurel Hill and Forest Hill. And then Dean Hill Cemetery is also listed. So the active cemetery is Forest Hill right now. We're still burying people there. But we wanted to at least make all 6 historic sites so that we can at least try to get some, preservation work going on. And Laurel Hill is actually the one that we're most concerned with, because that's the one that's up here that you see. And the terrain is very hilly, and we're having a lot of vandalism up there and a lot of, just over the course of years, hundreds of years, deterioration. So I think what happened was back in 2000, it just got to be so much work that whoever was on the commission at the time just kind of threw the hat in. So we're trying to pick it up now. But we do need your cooperation and your help and any guidance you can give us to move forward. So right now, today, we're just asking for an approval from your board and a letter supporting us so that we can put that through to the city council.
Well, we know that all of these cemeteries are indeed historic. We don't need to know any details. We just need to acknowledge
Under actually section 8D, under the Mass law, it states that a city or town which accepts this section may establish a historical commission, hereinafter called the Commission for the Preservation, Protection, Development of the Historical or Archaeological Assets of such city and town. And then it goes on to say, for the purpose of protecting and preserving such places, it may make such recommendations as it deems necessary to the city council or selectmen, and subject to the approval of the city council or the selectmen to the Massachusetts Historical Commission, that any such place be certified as an historical or archaeological landmark and shall report to the state archaeologist the existence of any. So we just need that 2/3 vote from our city council, but we need your help in getting that put through.
For that process.
Yeah.
So you're asking for a letter of support?
So a letter from the commission, the historical commission, would be appropriate if you could just help support us in designating these cemeteries as historic sites. So that's pretty much what we're asking today. I did provide Keith.
Keith, do you hear everything okay? Okay.
Okay, I did provide Keith with these Form E burial ground forms.
Yep.
Okay, you all
You
have
sent
a
it
copy.
to us, yes.
And they have been updated. Michelle took that project on. It was a big project. We have the originals from 2000 that the state received. And so these have just been updated with some new information and new pictures. So that's pretty much what we're asking today. If you have any questions, though, I'd be happy to answer, or Michelle or Jacqueline can answer them for you.
I mean, we're on your side.
I support this 100%.
I'm not gonna be the chairperson, but we have unanimous, I hope.
Yeah.
But also, thank you for providing us with all of this information, you
Oh,
know.
you're welcome. Yeah, well, we really, I don't know how else to say this. It's kind of a passion of mine, along with Jacqueline Poirier, who's the superintendent. Because as you know, we will be needing a new cemetery in the future. We have about a 5-year plan. Well, we only have about 5 more years.
So in other words, if you're gonna die, you need to do it now?
So the thing is, the way the government moves.
Yeah.
Or don't die at all.
It doesn't move in Judy time, which is
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah.
So 5 years is a blink.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to come up with some kind of a new cemetery. We're already starting that. We've actually been working on it for the last 10 years. We haven't gotten anywhere yet.
Well, I hear
We haven't
that
even got on the list yet.
I heard that the Westminster landfill is almost full, so maybe we just cap that off with dirt and just make that a new burial.
I have no idea, but we do have a site. It's across the street from Forest Hill that the city owns.
Oh, okay.
And we have had an architect do out the design work for us. Unfortunately, the cost is astronomical. And right now, it's not a priority on the list of priorities. But we need to go somewhere. So these existing cemeteries need some preservation work done.
Yes.
So that's where we want to start first. So
Okay,
that's why
great.
we're here.
I love it, yeah.
So,
Great. Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Keith.
Yes, sorry.
Judy, this is great. And yes, as we had said before, we certainly back you up on this. I think you've been in, to get the official state designation, I think you've been in contact with Mass Historical on this, with somebody there.
Yes, we do. Once we get the approval from the commission, the Historic Commission, and the city council approves it on your recommendation, then our next step would be to get it put on the historic register.
Okay.
It doesn't actually need to be on, let's see, Michelle, maybe you can answer that for Keith?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to, I think his name's Ben Haley, the person that you spoke to and had emails from, and I spoke to other people that he works with in that department and other departments in the area, so in Boston. And it seems as though the designation that Massachusetts has is just a list. It's a list of local historic designations. So there's no form per se. If you are a local historic district, you are on the state form. But you need the Form E filled out in order for the Mass Historical Commission to recommend your just to recommend to DC to be on the National Register. So that's what the form, based on a bunch of conversations I had, that seemed to be the primary need for the form, was for them to recommend the sites to the National Register. Otherwise, once the city deems these historic, then they go on the Massachusetts list automatically.
Yes. I- If, maybe if I could suggest that if you could maybe forward to me the contact information of the people of Mass Historical that you talked to.
I have it here, and I can forward it to you.
Okay. What in general, or just as some background, the city through the Historical Commission historically, back in starting in the 1970s, and Ellen is aware of these more than the rest of us. The city started inventorying its historic properties. It is a local inventory process that these forms, very similar for buildings, it's a different form. In the burial form or burial places is the Form E, and for buildings and other sites, it's a different form, an inventory form. Yesterday you sent the updated Form Es, I believe, for the burial grounds for five of the cemeteries, all except for the Hartwell, which is there is an older Form E on the Hartwell, but there's no location, there's no photographs, and we're not. It's really hard. I don't know if you on the trustees or cemetery employees know where the Hartwell Cemetery is.
I can ask Jacqueline to answer that for you.
The Hartwell Cemetery is located on 299 Ashby West Road. You have to leave your vehicle and go up a hill. It is in the woods. There's currently 3 individuals that are interred in the Hartwell Cemetery. They're all Hartwell family members, buried on their farm. And when they get abandoned, then the city has to take ownership and take care of them at that point. The burials start there at 1865.
Do you think the state would want to have some documentation of exactly what's there, so so we in city council could have a little bit better definition of what it is from your research?
Do you want that just on the Hartwell Cemetery?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Would you like that information on just the Hartwell Cemetery?
Well, I think you have it on the other 5. You have the Form Es updated, I believe.
Yes.
There were original Form Es that pretty much Julie Larry had updated back in 2000, I believe it was, which you referenced for Laurel Hill, South Street, Dean Hill, West Street, and for Forest Hill. Those are I believe you sent the updated forms to us yesterday, and I think I sent them to the other commission members to take a look at those. With the new colored photographs and things, which is great. I'm just wondering, so we had maybe a little bit more information on Hartwell. Would it be possible to get an updated form on that?
Yeah, I can do one. I just wanted to clarify that the only Macris has those other Dean Hill, South Street, West Street in their files, but from forms from 1977. They didn't actually have a Form E created back in 2000 when the architects were working in the city. So I put them on Form Es, as a preliminary measure, but there's definitely a lot more information that could be added. And we thought we could model the format and information from the other Form Es that the architects did to try to get as much as we can to support, all the information necessary in order for it to be nominated. Mm-hmm. But we can create a Form E for Hartwell. I only found out about Hartwell. I might have missed it in a conversation months ago, but I learned about it looking at something. And then I asked Jacqueline, what is this? I haven't heard about this yet. So So that was all new to me, but I can do one.
Okay, yeah, I think there is an old Form E on Hartwell from took a look at it a month or so ago, I think. But if, I think for us and to present to city council and to educate city council of your needs, when we do our support letter to you and when you present it to city council, I'm just recommending that maybe having these updated documents for them as kind of record and for their education of the, probably many of our council members don't know all of the history like you folks do, and the significance of our burial grounds, and just to kind of help your cause. And having this kind of the final package, if we want Hartwell included in it, to maybe have the paperwork on it like you've done so far. As a suggestion, I don't know what the other commission members, I guess I'm suggesting it would be maybe if we could continue this, if we had kind of the full forms, at the ones that you had submitted yesterday, which were updates to the Tuck Tracy and Larry Architects, the ones that did the historic surveys for you. I think making sure that those updated forms have in one place I saw that it said the Fitchburg trustee of burial grounds, and maybe there's just a couple typos in some of those, if we had those corrected.
Well, actually, there's some like little minor points regarding that. As I said, Forest Hill and Laurel Hill had the official Form E's done and completed by the architects, but they didn't, they maybe did a cover page, but they didn't actually fill out a Form E the same way that they did for the others. Macris has them on file somehow. They probably, during the evaluation process back in 2000, they have those other locations, those other cemeteries in a database, and the state knows about them, but the architects didn't do an elaborate Form E for any of them other than Laurel Hill and Forest Hill. So what I was doing was taking the information, and I put the old form information on a Form E just to, at least get that far. And so basically what you were just asking is why the Fitchburg burial trustees were on that form, is because I can't put the architect's name on those forms because they didn't do that.
No, I was just saying there was a typo saying it said Fitchburg trustee instead of trustees.
Oh, okay,
burial
yes.
ground. It was just didn't have the EES on the end of one of those. And I can share that specific and send it back to you on that, just to if you would like to update a couple of those things. So
yeah, I mean, I want to like proof them once again as well, and try to exchange the photos to be smaller so the document won't be so large. You have to reduce the size of the photos, not spatially, but the resolution.
Right. Yeah, that makes it handier to send
But
out.
I can put a whole package together for the next time that you need them.
Okay. I don't know the other commission members.
Well, so that we could help the trustees expedite their effort to get this through the process. Would it be possible for us to approve the next step, which will include a Form E for Hartwell Street? Acknowledging that we have all of the information we need for the others.
So pre-approve conditionally.
Yes,
Okay,
okay.
sure.
Anybody's, I'm perfectly willing to relinquish how it should state, how it should be stated.
I support that.
Hmm?
I support that, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't see a problem, but.
If you got that.
They're doing a good job.
So I apologize because I can't read your lips. And my hearing isn't that great.
Okay.
So you will ask to pre-approve.
No, we're
gonna vote.
saying that the Fitchburg Historical Commission pre-approves
Yeah.
the
Request?
request
Okay,
to nominate several, you can put the number, Fitchburg cemeteries as historic places. And for the purpose of, presenting it to the council, you could list them.
yes,
But that we pre-approve.
okay. And do you want the forms redone, including Hartwell, correct?
But
Yeah.
Correct. I think Ellen is proposing a motion that the Fitchburg Historical Commission endorse the designation of these 6 cemeteries that you mentioned as local historic places. And under the condition that we have a form for including the Hartwell Cemetery and a couple minor typos corrected. Is that your motion?
yes.
That's your motion.
I second your motion.
We approve that. Don already seconded, I was going to say.
So that's Ellen's motion then.
Okay, just to make it official here, I just put it into a motion and there's a second.
Yes, Don?
Yeah, I'll third it or fourth it or whatever.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Brainer.
Say,
Aye.
Aye.
Don, I don't know if I heard from you.
Aye. Oh.
He can't start your legs moving.
Any abstentions? Any nays?
No?
Okay. So we will craft your letter. We will, I think it is, we're going to be sending it to you, the trustees of Fitchburg Burial Grounds.
Yes, I think you have.
Endorsement. And you will be making the proposal then to city council. Is that the process?
So, yes. If you'd like to come and support us that night when we're on the agenda, that would be helpful. Someone can,
I would be glad to.
Or, yeah, definitely keep us in the loop of when you get it on to city council.
yes.
And we would be more than happy to have someone come in person and endorse that also. All right.
Are you doing that in person or are you doing that via Zoom with the city council?
Well, I believe that they're meeting in the legislative building and they have video, audio and video there. So if you can't attend, excuse me, you can at least.
But are you planning to be there in person?
I'll be there in person,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, I'll be there in person.
I don't know if they're allowing people to go.
I
They are
believe,
now
well,
for
They
now.
are, they are.
all municipal buildings now, you have to wear your mask, but I do believe that you can come into the building, but,
Okay.
Yes, as long as.
okay. So I thank you very much, and we
Thank
will correct the typos and
Thank you.
provide you with an update on Hartwell. One other thing I just wanted to mention before I leave is in the packet, I believe that you all got was the mausoleum. There was some information in there on the mausoleum, the Forest Hill Abbey.
Yes.
That's gonna be like a separate item later on. I don't know if you want to include it today or if you want us to, because that has to have a whole different write-up on it. Because it's go
I'm
ahead,
not sure.
Michelle.
I'm sorry. I'm not really sure because the way the architects did the form, they included it
Included, okay, great.
building
okay.
is included in the form. You know, you may be right, Judy, but for some reason, when I read through it and I saw the way they included it,
It included.
there's no separate designation for the mausoleum.
Okay, good.
You
So
can
it-
have
it-
it. So-
Yeah, regarding perhaps future funding or support for repairs or restoration of certain parts of the mausoleum, you may be able just to use the, the designation because it is part of the Forest Hill,
Yes, okay, very good, thank you.
I suspect. And if you would send me that contact information with Mass Historical, I'll just do a quick verification with them too, so.
I'll send you the letter that was sent to me from, I have it here. It was a Ben Haley, Preservation Planner, National History Register Assistant. His information's on the bottom there. And I can copy
we
that
can look it
letter.
up too.
Okay.
It's on our website probably, yeah.
Oh, okay. Who's going to do the letter?
Judy, if you could scan it to me and I'll
I'll
just take
send it
it.
to you. Yeah,
If you have his
yes,
email.
yeah.
Keith, you're gonna write the letter?
Sure.
Or should
And
we?
I'll draft a letter, distribute it to all of you and send a copy to Judy also, just to make sure we've hit all of the correct things. So I can get comments back from everybody before I send the official one.
All right, thank you very much, everyone.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for your
Oh,
patience.
you're welcome.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a battle, I can tell you already, but we gotta start somewhere, so.
No,
very
you-
good.
Commend everything that the trustees are doing and the cemetery commissions and the employees and things. It's quite a task and you've done well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Okay.
thanks for waiting for us.
Oh, you're welcome, no problem.
Normally, it's easier to see us. Normally, we don't have presentations.
Well, I felt embarrassed that I didn't give you a presentation like you had from them. It was wonderful.
Perfect.
You provided us.
Yeah, we had all the information. we
Okay,
needed.
good.
And
Thank
and we had a chance to review it before.
you. Okay, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Judy.
Bye.
I just want to give an update. I have to
Thank
leave
you.
by
Thank you.
5:15.
Thank you.
Say that
I
again?
have to leave by 5:15.
Yeah, I gotta leave too at some point.
Yeah.
But I got the computer, so the meeting's over when I leave.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, maybe we don't have to go through some of this stuff quickly.
If I can, we can try to wrap this up by in the next 10 minutes, perhaps. I think some of the things are carryovers. Let me just go down them quickly for not spending much time on them, but the number 4 was the historic marker or the site marker for the Blossom and Crescent Streets. I shared some information that the Historical Society had come up with. Also, Ellen has noted that there is a plaque on Pearl Street in the kind of the brick Greek Revival house that's between Blossom and North Street, the one on the north side of the road, just across the street from that row of garages, that kind of historic garages, if you will, right across from there, that actually has the same characters, the same people, the same tavern, the same first school thing. And this marker, I have a photograph that I'll send everybody later on today of the plaque and the wording on it. It's a bronze plaque that's on a piece of granite stone that's set on a monument. And there's just up in the kind of the, just off the driveway of this older 19th century house there on Pearl Street. And my question was this marker actually removed from the Crescent Street property and put in this location, or is this the actual location of the school and the first meeting house, et cetera? So We need a little clarification on that, so I'd like to put that off until next meeting, until we have some more information.
Well, no, Keith,
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember going to something at the building at the corner of Pearl and Longwood Avenue several years ago. Our family doctor bought the property, and that's when, when I saw the plaque. So, but I have no idea when this got moved.
Okay, so that's, we'll try to follow up on this. I just don't want us to have two plaques saying the same things in two different locations.
I was, because we talked about this the other day. I think it's important that that location be recognized as the original site of the meeting house.
The Blossom Pearl, or Blossom and Crescent, is that correct?
At least it's my understanding that that's where the original.
Yeah, and
It's just a wooden house, a wooden building of no particular importance.
long gone at the moment. Yeah. So we're going to do some follow-up on that. Monument Park repairs. There hasn't been much, but when Charles and I took the last look at it a month or so ago, we were kind of at the end of it. We were kind of noting that most of the rot on the bottom of the balusters was on the street side, and there was very little rot on the back side or the park side. And kind of one of the things that, and there was a lot of it, there were a lot of the balusters that were cracking and spalling off at the bottom where they met the ground. And our kind of speculation is that perhaps the snow and ice melt that the highway uses, and particularly along Main Street, where they might be going faster than the side roads, that as the plows go by and a spray of salt spray goes on it, that hits the cast iron balusters and settles particularly on the front side of those. And that salt gets in and starts rusting the cast iron, which is causing the spalling and breaking and some of that. And it doesn't seem to be happening on the backside, although that's kind of the side the sun hits also. But there seems to be more weathering on the street side than on the park side. And I just want to do a little bit more investigation about, are we just chasing our tails on this with, the type of ice melt that the city's using in this part of town, or, so I'll have a follow-up on that at next meeting. On the Simon Saab site, I drove by it yesterday, and the front section of the 1930s building is 99% still standing, and portions of the rear of it are demolished. But the front section is still there, and the big banner of the demolition company is actually across the white marble front entry, as if that's going to be there for a while. So I'm not sure what the status is on the front portion of this building. Just saving the front wall is not what we were hoping for. With more of the building and several structural bays of the building would be better, but I'm not quite sure what they're doing. So the building is not all down, just a couple portions of it. They are doing stuff from the rear of the project, and I'm not sure what's happening back there, but the front facade of the building is still there. So more to come on that, perhaps. Number 7, demolition delay ordinance. I think when we have a draft of that, Megan, if you could send that out to us. Historic districts information brochure. We're waiting to hear back for students becoming involved with this in the fall semester, so we should have an update on that for our September meeting. Update on the old courthouse preservation. There's nothing new on that I know of, and I hope to talk with Tom Swarowski on this to get some information. I'll try to make an effort to do that. Same with Twin Cities Rail Trail. The website is still saying that we're meeting at the library. I'll make some calls to City Hall to see if I can get some action on changing those. Don has sent out a draft of an updated draft of the Stonewall ordinance. Thank you, Don. And if we will, everybody take a hard look at that and make any comments ahead of time if you can. And we'll take that up in September. Filling the vacancy on the commission.
Keith sent an email out to Nick Pelletier, and did you get a response back from him?
I sent an email to Nick Pelletier after our correspondence, Megan, a week ago, and said that we were meeting today and gave him both the location and the Zoom link. And as far as I know, he hasn't shown up, but and the thought was, I think, filling in certainly someone from the real estate board recommendations, or someone like Nick would be great to have. And vacancies, I think we should try to fill the vacancies in our charter as they show up, so that the mayor is doing kind of making the right recommendations. So I made the recommendation that maybe somebody from the planning board. The planning board kind of gets early notice of projects that are happening that might involve historic buildings. Things like the Harper Furniture Company, those go to the planning board kind of before they even think of historic commission. Things like Simon Saw, et cetera. So a planning board person might be a good person also. And I thought of perhaps Boulder Gallery person, Capadogli, as possible, just that he's been involved with the Historical Society and historical things a lot also, so has a good interest. As a suggestion, and others, any other thoughts that others might have. Yes.
I just wanted I had gotten I haven't talked to her in a very long time, but Helen Obermeyer Simmons had reached out to me on Facebook Messenger a week or two ago, and she's expressed interest in joining the commission on and off over the years.
Oh.
And she had reached out to me on Facebook Messenger and asked how she would go about her or her son, John, joining. And I said that she can either come to our meeting, and I told her when and where it was. I thought she might be here today, but she wasn't. Or she could reach out to the mayor's office, or anyone that's on the board. I had no other information for her, but I know she expressed interest. I know she lives in Lunenburg, but has a lot of connection to Fitchburg. So I'm just throwing it out there that she had reached out in case anybody talks to her. So just throwing it out there.
Okay. Great.
Involved with the Historical Society, from what I remember.
Yes.
And Susan Navarre said that there's another person at the Historical Society that's been doing a lot of research, is expressed interest also. I'm just thinking of making sure we meet the spread of the types of members that we should have too. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't think she checks anything off on the list of people that we're looking for as far as trying to check. But on the other hand, she's very knowledgeable about Fitchburg history. So
no, absolutely, they're all good suggestions. So and any other new business that we should be thinking about and for next agenda?
Keith, just to follow up on the railings, was there anything at this point that we could do, or we just, it's the balls in the Department of Public Works court at this point?
Yes, I want to do a follow-up phone call with Nate in that it follows under Parks and Rec, their property. And just kind of following up from our June meeting with him and budget things and kind of process of how we can get this going and how they would want to help handle it and letting, you know, kind of reinforcing his knowledge of the commission's responsibility for the review process of what is being done in the Monument Park Historic District. So.
All right, well, keep me posted on that.
Would you like me to invite him to the next meeting?
Let me go make a phone call with him. He did come to the June meeting, and it was, you know, I don't know if he got a lot out of that or not. I would like to make a phone call with him, or one of us could. But how he would like, I'd like to find out exactly how they would budget it and get it onto their. I think it would come under their budget process. And how we might be able to augment that, I'm not sure how, but maybe with matching grant or something like that.
Okay, so you're going to talk to him.
Yes, that's my suggestion.
Okay.
Just so you know, my battery's gonna die. It's at 6%. It just went from 10% to 6, so I have a feeling it's gonna die.
Okay, we went beyond our 10 minutes anyhow, so. The next meeting is September, what, 23rd, I believe. And just need to be looking ahead for November and December. Obviously, we're going to be following in Thanksgiving and around Christmas, New Year's. And I'm suggesting that we move those dates up 1 week. So instead of the last Thursday, it'll be the next to last Thursday of the month for November and December. And maybe we can post this on our website also. Do I have concurrence on that?
So move.
Or Thursday, excuse me, Thursday, and next to last Thursday for November and December. Okay,
Are we done?
I think so. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
So moved.